lively meeting yesterday.
Yeah, but it was good. I think it was helpful. I think
start fleshing stuff out.
Yeah. Tell me when, Matt. Okay, all right. Well, thank you all for being here in this hot sun. And I want to thank my friend Greg Casar for his incredible leadership, not only as the leader of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, but for his partnership on this legislation. Let me start by telling you why we are all here today. We're here because so many farmers can't be. They've got enough on their plate as it is, even if they weren't being jerked around by corporate bullies. And it's our job to make things a little easier for farmers, which means standing up to bullies. Like so much of agriculture, this starts with seeds. The seeds we plant in the ground and harvest. The seeds that our food system depends on to grow the food that all of us eat every day. The truth is that over the last decades, the American seed industry has been bought out by big ag. Just a few multinational corporations now basically control the supply of an essential farm input. This unchecked corporate power harms the farmers who grow our food and the families who depend on it. Seed monopolies drive up prices, crowd out independent seed companies, and stifle the breeding innovation that is essential to a resilient and affordable food system. This broken system also forces farmers into unfair purchasing contracts that restrict their ability to save, breed, experiment with, and replant seeds, often under the threat of retaliation, blacklisting, or litigation. And here's the deal. This is not a status quo that we arrived at naturally. These big ag companies are abusing laws that Congress put in place to protect intellectual property, and they have benefited from a federal government that has, up until now, looked the other way while they rigged the system. We believe it's time to change that. The Fair Seeds for Farmers Act will protect farmers, strengthen the U.S. food system, and help address rising food costs by ending the corporate abuse of patents and plant varieties. We want to give farmers greater control over what they grow. We want to strengthen independent seed companies and public research. And we want to support a more resilient food supply. This bill is fundamentally about food. It's about the people who grow it, the families who depend on it, and the giant corporations that have figured out how to make a fortune squeezing both. We have a system right now in this country where farmers do the work, families pay the price, and billionaire corporations at the top, pocket the profits. Our bill asks a simple question: whose side should the government be on? The corporations that rig the system and profit from it, or the farmers who grow our food and the families struggling to afford it? A handful of billionaire companies like Bayer, Monsanto, Chem China, Corteva, and others, they are not content to make billions just selling seeds. They want the ability to decide who can grow what and how much farmers must pay for the privilege of growing the food that feeds the rest of us. We think that is immoral, and we think it's outrageous. And that is what the Fair Seeds for Farmers Act is about. It's not just about patents, it's about power. It's about the richest, most powerful companies in the world, giant multinational corporate monopolies going after the little guy who grow our food and keep us fed. The billionaire companies gobble up smaller ones, they write one-sided contracts, and they use the threat of lawsuits to scare the hell out of farmers. And then they charge more and more to give farmers the privilege of growing food that they've already been growing for generations. The CEOs and the lawyers that get rich, the farmers get screwed, and the rest of us pay more at the grocery store. So I'm particularly proud and want to point out that the Fair Seeds for Farmers Act is part of the Congressional Progressive Caucus's new affordability agenda, which is about making things cheaper, putting money back in people's pockets, and taking on wealthy special interests that have rigged our economy against working people. Food is too damn expensive in this country. People see it every time they walk into the grocery store. And if we're serious about lowering food costs, we have to look at those. We have to look at where those costs begin. They begin with what it costs farmers to put seeds in the ground. So when giant corporations control the seeds, they can drive up prices for farmers. Those higher costs do not disappear. They move through the food system and land on the grocery bill of every working family. And our bill takes direct aim at that. So let me end with this. Food is one of the most basic promises we make to one another. That the farmers and farm workers who grow it can make a living. and that the families they feed can afford to eat. But that promise has been broken by giant corporations that squeeze farmers at the beginning of the food chain and families at the end. They have amassed more wealth, more control, and more power while everyone pays the price. This bill starts rebuilding that broken system from the ground up. So for too long, Washington has let Big Ag call the shots while farmers and families get screwed. Enough already. The people who grow our food deserve a fair deal. The people who buy that food deserve prices that they can afford. That is what this bill is all about. That is what it means to have fair seeds. I'm proud to introduce it with one of the strongest fighters for working people in Congress, the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, my friend Greg Casar.
Thank you, Jim.
All right.
Thanks. I appreciate it, man. Good morning. I'm Greg. I'm proud to represent the heart of Texas in Congress and be chair of the Progressive Caucus. And today I'm especially proud to be here with my friend Jim McGovern to introduce a key pillar of the Progressive Caucus's new affordability agenda. Every single working American knows that groceries are just too damn expensive. And while Trump promised to bring down prices on day one, the basics just keep getting more and more and more expensive. Trump's tariffs, his cuts to SNAP, his war with Iran have all made it harder and harder for families to be able to afford the increasing price of food. And the result is more and more families are having to put an item back on the shelf when they're at the grocery store. More and more parents having to skip a meal so that their kids can eat. More and more constituents telling me that they pull up their bank account on their phone while at their grocery store before they decide which essentials they can and cannot purchase. A new report from the Urban Institute finds that millions of Americans are drawing down savings or using buy now, pay later, or relying on payday loans just to afford their groceries. Enough is enough. Congress must act to bring down the price of food. And today we're here with a big new proposal to crack down on the big corporations who are getting rich off of your higher food prices. And it starts where so much of our food starts, with seeds. Over the past decade, a small number of multinational corporations have cornered the market on seeds. By abusing patent law, these big corporations force farmers to pay more and more for their seeds. They bar farmers from breeding their own seeds. They bar farmers from reusing seeds from previous harvests. And as a result, you end up paying more and more from everything that comes from seeds, from apples to bread. And the grocery store shoppers are not the only ones getting hurt. Across the country, small farmers are fighting just to stay in business. They're already facing a changing climate, changing markets, and unfair competition from Big Ag. So families who have farmed their land for generations are struggling to make ends meet too. They're being taken advantage of by the same big corporations who are trying to make an extra buck off of you. Our bill says no more. No more letting corporations bar researchers or farmers from saving or breeding their own seeds. No more abusing the patent system to line their own pockets. Our bill is good for farmers. It's good for everyone who buys groceries, which means it's good for virtually everyone except for some special interest lobbyists who want to abuse patent law to make a buck. This is not a left or a right issue. It's not a Democratic or a Republican issue. This is a working people versus big corporations issue. That's why we're glad that it is a pillar of our new affordability agenda, and it's why the CPC is going to be prioritizing this bill every step of the way. It's being led by the great Jim McGovern, whose quote I'll use, that the groceries are just too damn expensive, as well as by Senator Elizabeth Warren in the Senate. Let's get it done. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you.
And before we take any questions, I just want to say one final thing. You know, today we're talking about seeds, but I just want to make a broader point. The corporate gravy train is coming to an end. And it may not be this year because Republicans still control this place, and I'm being generous when I say control, if you've just been watching what's been going on the floor. But people around this country are waking up, and they're seeing that something as rotten in Trump's America. People can smell the grift, and the stench of it carries further back than just the last 19 months. The well-off and the well-connected, like corporations who dominate the seed industry, they've gotten their way for far too long now. And they get everything they want, especially in food and agriculture policy, while the rest of us get screwed. So a farm bill that serves C-suite executives, not the people. A Supreme Court that protects these same corporations that we're talking about today from legal liability when their toxic pesticides poison people. A Congress that looks the other way while family farms go under. A president who thinks the Oval Office is for sale to the highest bidder, meaning them. And so we're here as progressives, and as people who care about other people, standing shoulder to shoulder with farmers and working people around the country who are sick and tired of all this shit. So when we're in charge, when we have the gavels again, we're not playing nice, and we're not letting bygones be bygones. And with that, if anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer them, or we can take them.
Congressman, we've seen the oil prices are back up again. Now that the ceasefire is off. Obviously, this is one way that you guys are trying to tackle rising oil prices. But what can be done in the short term? It takes time to build, especially in our economy.
Well, what we're going to try to do is see whether we can get amendments made in order. We're going to continue to use the discharge petition to try to bring priorities to the floor. You mentioned the war in Iran, which Trump has said he ended five different times. Oil prices are going back up again. That goes on to the backs of our farmers and onto consumers. I mean, we're going to continue to use whatever means we have available to try to raise these issues and force votes on them. The problem is these guys are in charge. They're in charge of everything: the House, the Senate, the White House, and the Supreme Court. And so, within that, we are trying to find ways, to force these issues and to force votes. Can't guarantee that we can do it. I can tell you, if we're in charge, we have the gavels. We have a lot more control about what we bring to the floor. But we're not giving up. We're going to try to do whatever we can in the short term.
Jim covered it, but the really short-term way to address oil prices would be for Trump to stop restarting the damn war. I mean, he just keeps starting new wars, restarting wars. So it doesn't take an act of Congress. He could just not continue to keep starting new wars when he said he was going to be a president that was not going to be doing that. We also have in the new affordability agenda a windfall profits tax that would tax the enormous increase in profit these oil companies are getting from the higher gas prices, and sending a rebate check to every single American family. Hundreds of dollars could go right back to you if we were willing to take on these oil companies that are profiting from the war. But that's why we have ideas like this one that would reduce your grocery prices. We have ideas like the windfall profits tax that would reduce your prices at the pump. We want to lay out for the American people that we have an actual plan for reducing prices, while Trump goes out and says he's going to reduce prices, and all it seems that's he's doing is actually jacking up your costs.
Yeah. I just was one of the things. This place is all messed up. I mean, people want to know why, the status quo is what it is. Follow the money. Follow the money in terms of what the decisions are being made at the White House. Follow the money by decisions that are being made here in the Congress. This current Congress has been bought and is totally owned by big corporations, and that is reflected in the Republican agenda. And quite frankly, the people that I represent, by the way, the people that they represent are getting screwed over, and people just had it. So this is an effort to try to push back. We want to see what we can get done this year. Whatever we can get done this year, hopefully the political winds change and we can get this over the finish line next year. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.